a lot of feedback going on the phone. The first thing is, if you're doing a test and then you're trying to handle the consultation, what you're looking at is you're having some complexities as far as the patient is concerned for twofold reasons. When they come in the office and they think they're just going to have a test, you have to understand that people with fibromyalgia have been suffering for years, and they do a lot of testing, and they do a lot of collecting of data. And if you don't penetrate the person to get them to want help, you can do a test, and then they'll walk away and they won't come back. So the consult is a vitality to penetrate that person to the point where they actually reach and want your service, and they actually want the test. I know they're going to come in wanting the test, but you have to realize that it's not truly what they're demonstrating internally, meaning that they could come in, do a test, say, yes, I want the test, but until they really understand that they're going to live with this condition for a normal lifespan, and they're not going to die early, and they're going to be miserable for another 30 years, and they want to do something about it, I would not test a person until I got them to that state where they were like, oh my gosh, I want to change, I want to do something. And that's the first and foremost, most important aspect that you need to handle with a person as far as that test is concerned. I wouldn't bring them in, test them, and do the consult. I would do it the opposite way. I would do the consultation with the person, and then I would actually do the test. And the reason for that is that person with fibromyalgia has got a stack of doctors they've seen that have never helped them. And if you get a result, it's unbelievable to that person. They'll say it's a fluke, it's this or that, because there wasn't enough reach from that patient to want to change. And that's where some of you on the NRCP kind of get stuck, is that, well, I made a result with that person and they didn't come back. Well, yeah, it's because it's unbelievable to them that you could actually help them. One of the scripts that you've got to use with people with fibromyalgia who have detrimental type conditions as far as their health is concerned is, will you help me help you? It's one of the greatest phrases you can use with a person who's stuck. Because what's happened is they've had help and it hasn't worked, and then they've had help and they haven't worked. They've tried to have help and it didn't work. So what's to say that you're going to really help them? They've already been told by 5 or 6 different doctors that they can't have help, and so they're stuck there in a I can't have help attitude, but yet I want to come see one more test because one more test will show me something. But they're not reaching to be well because they've been told they can't get well. So you've got to get them to a point where they want to get well so that you can then do the test. That's the first aspect, that's the aspect as far as the testing is concerned. So when you're talking about bridging them from a test to an exam and x-ray, once you've done the test, what you need to make sure that the person understands is that you need to rule out complicating factors and make sure that they understand that the test alone just helps you demonstrate the first qualifying factor. But there's other qualifying factors that you're going to have to look at, which is an examination, a more in-depth examination and x-rays to rule out complicating factors. And it's pretty simplistic when you sit down with the patient. Once you've gone through the consultation and the examination, once you've gone through the consultation and the testing, all you have to do is sit down with the patient and say, listen, your condition is complex, and each fibromyalgia or person that has neurological problems truly understands that they have a complexity and problem. So all I would say with them is, listen, your condition is complex, and I want to make sure I'm very thorough and make sure you're in the right place, make sure that I'm able to help you. And I know that you've probably had a lot of doctors who said they could help you, and then they weren't able to, and so they came back and said, you've got to live with this condition. how many doctors have you had say that to you? And they're going to come out and they're going to divulge to you all the crap that's told to them. And you want to get all of it out. And the question you have to ask out of that is, do you feel like that's true, that no one's going to be able to help you, or you're going to have to live in this condition forever? And if they say yes, then you're going to have to address that, because that's somebody who's going to go through your 4-day process, drop out somewhere between day 1 and day 4, which I'm handling 2 things at one time here, is that they're going to come through the process and they're going to drop out somewhere in the center because they didn't truly feel like you were going to be able to help them, and you didn't address it, and so therefore you're unreal to them, and so they quit. And they'll do that in the first 4 days if that's the situation. So you really need to find out from that patient, how many times has somebody said that they could help them and failed to? And then the next thing that you've got to find out from that person is, are they willing to have hope to be helped again, or are they just like a lost cause? And if your person or your patient comes back to you and they go, well, you know what, it's just a lost cause, I was told this, I was told that, then you've got to kind of go through with each person and say, listen, have you ever promised somebody you could help them and it failed? And make them give you a time. And I would do 3 or 4 of those. Anybody else you ever tried to help and then failed? Anybody else you tried to help and then failed? So you're going to go through that several times to a point where once you've gone through about 3 of those, then you're going to ask them, have you ever helped somebody and it worked? And they're going to come back with a response, and then you want to do about 3 of those. And then you can come back with the knowledge and say, we have advanced technology in our practice. I don't know how you feel, but I think it would be a shame if you didn't check to find out whether or not we could help you. And because of the complexity of your condition, we need to do a thorough examination and a set of x-rays to determine that what exactly is your condition and what's going on, to rule out complicating factors. But before I do that, what I want to find out from you is, I'm able to help you on a scale of 1 to 10. How committed are you to getting well, with 10 being the highest? Like 10 is, I really want the help, I want to do whatever it takes, and 1's like, you know, there's no way, my doctor told me that you can't help me, and so I'm just going to have to live with the condition. And what you're doing here is you're trying to bring that person's understanding up, or penetrate that person to a point where they actually want help. But you have to address, before you get them to a point of help, you have to address all the times that they weren't helped. And that's one of the major reasons. I think the other thing that Colette asked said was that, you know, doctors find out that the person doesn't stay through the 4-day process. And that's because the person really didn't want the help to begin with. And so it's unreal to that person that you could even help them, so they're going to drop off without even communicating to you. Somewhere between day 1 and day 4, that's going to happen. Which is an unfortunate aspect, but it does happen. So the other aspect that I want to handle as well is the doctor's own consideration that the patient cannot afford the care. And here's the situation. If you as the practitioner believe that that person can't afford the care, regardless of their money condition, you're absolutely right. So if I go into a day 4 thinking somebody can't pay, they don't close. And exactly what they tell me sums it up. They go, you know what, Christina? I don't have the funds for this. And the sad part about it is, really came from you not being solid and having a high standard and delivering and handling every consideration of the patient. And what you do when you feel like that person can't afford it is you back off on your level of standard on your delivery, and so therefore it's not nearly as strong as someone you absolutely feel like you can. Because if you have a patient who comes in and you absolutely know without a shadow of a doubt that they can afford the care, you know, the amazing thing is your communication changes. It becomes the perfect communication, and it slices through every one of their considerations to the point where they close. Well, that kind of communication that you have is the exact communication you need to have with every single patient who comes into your practice, regardless of their finances. Now, obviously, if this is a person on Medicaid, yes, you're right. They probably will not be able to afford the care. But that's not the people that you're trying to attract into your practice. You're not trying to attract the welfare people into your clinic. I understand there's going to be a few of those that come through, and there's going to be a few of those that are going to get in, and some of those people that are on welfare are going to have family members that can assist. But there are going to be other of those members that do not. And so you've got to really decide when you're in front of the patient that it is not the income that's an issue. It's the degree to the level of they want help that's the issue. If you find that you're in there and you have considerations of money, it's going to come right back to you. And then you're going to go, well, see, I knew it. And so then you give up. And that part is the part that's an issue. So you've got to make sure that when you go in and you deliver the finance aspect, that you're delivering exactly what you feel like that person needs without a shadow of a doubt. You have 100% confidence that you are going to start them under care. Whatever consideration they give you at that point, you're just going to handle. You're going to address and handle, address and handle, address and handle. And what you're going to do is address and handle every concern they have, and then you're just going to throw the money out there, and you're going to say, this is what it's going to cost. How do you want to do that? Would it be easier for you to do that by check, by credit card? What would you do? And that's the issue with the consideration of money. Okay, so based off of that, does anybody else have any other questions as far as the 4-day process is concerned, or educating your patients on making sure they have an understanding of what you're doing?
I have another question, Dr. Tashiro.
Yes.
Yeah, this relates to what happens even before the 4-day. So we are running an ad in a women's magazine, and so far we've had 2 calls on the ad. And the women who called definitely need care because they've got the classic kinds of condition that this work helps. In both cases, neither woman showed up. And I'm not sure if that's characteristic or not too uncommon with people that respond to the NRC kind of ads, just because of what you're describing relative to their history with practitioners and their disbelief in the ability to get well.
Well, the funny part about it is they all love the test. They love to be tested. If you've ever noticed when people go to a medical doctor, they brag about the tests they've had. If you notice, even when they come into your practice, that's what they do. I've had this test, I've had that, I've had MRIs, I've had CAT scans, I've had, blood work, I've had this, I've had that, and they have all these tests and they know all the results, but there's no sign of help. So with those people, as far as your ad is concerned, one of the things that I'd want to know is what ad did you run?
It was an ad that we created from some of the material we got off the website. Very simple ad, like a quarter page. At the top, stated free pain relief. And then under that, new for the first time in Colorado, a relief test that can relieve the majority of your symptoms and indicate if you're a candidate to benefit from treatment.